Jackie.
Hello.
Hello. Before we start, I'm going to introduce my interpreter, Bottom Intelligence. She will be signing when I speak. And the top will be Marley. She will be signing when you speak.
Fantastic.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to welcome you to the Cat Chat podcast. And I appreciate you giving a part of your time during the day to talk about Team Upstanders.
It is my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. I'm also a huge fan of Trevor Donovan and how he became involved. So one of the first questions will be, how did Team Upstanders started? I mean, was it no idea or was it, and where does Trevor fit in all of that?
So I'm going to take you back a couple of years. I actually was lucky enough to win an auction item from Charity Buzz to have lunch with Trevor. I was a huge fan. I'm a huge fan as well. And we got a chance to meet and get to know each other. And through that, he found out that I was an educator. I was a former teacher and a current school counselor. And so I had also gotten to know his agent, Michael Yanni, and we had stayed in touch. And Yanni had reached out to me a few years after my initial meeting with Trevor and said, would you be interested in having Trevor come to your school and deliver an anti-bullying message? And obviously, I was like, absolutely. In meeting him, I knew what a humble and kind man he was. And I thought, what a great influence for students that I work with. They're middle schoolers. And so once we had that initial assembly with our students, we decided that Team Upstanders was going to become a thing. And so it developed through that one meeting and the need for the anti-bullying initiative to be shared.
Very nice, very nice. I mean, yeah, I saw a couple of practice and he went to Deer Lake School back in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And I started watching it, but I wasn't too familiar because it was still new to me. Um, I'm a teacher as well, so I could definitely relate with you with many different topics like bullying, um, mental health,
Yes.
fashion, social anxiety. So I could see with how all of that could fit in within the Team Upstanders anti-bully campaign. So how can if some schools, how does it work? I mean, will you be able to like travel to different schools, or can they like sign up if they're interested in for a Team Upstanders to come? Not Trevor Donovan, because I know he had filming sketches or traveling or his own life, but that would be really nice as well. So how can that promote, you know, around the United States, maybe internationally in the future, but so we could promote the awareness and prevent bullying?
Absolutely. You pose a wonderful question. We've been lucky to have Trevor come to Deer Lakes a few times. And what we're looking to do right now as we are looking to roll this out as a nonprofit organization, at the moment, we're not doing school visits. What we are going to start with is we are building a website. And our website is going to include things like lesson plans, activities, how to bring a Team Upstanders program to your school. I'm sure you can relate as an educator, anytime we can have information that we can take and use directly, that's huge. And that's what we want to be able to do for teachers and for school districts, is to provide lots of resources, starting with teachers, and then eventually we would like to grow it to parents, guardians, and caretakers as well. Eventually we may come to a place where maybe we can entertain doing some on-site assemblies, but we want to build this slowly because Trevor, it's really important to him that we get this right. He has such a passion for this, and lucky that he has this amazing platform that he can use to share this message. So that's the way we're looking to do it. And I'm glad you asked this question because a lot of people have been asking the same one. So I'm glad that we can start to share out what that vision is this first step is going to be website and resources.
I'm so glad I think last night or today I'm not needed for more questions because I know this was barely in there. I was like, the website, go to the Instagram page and they click and it was like movies, fact, and a little bit of news with the clip with Trevor and Deerland. And I was like, I need more information.
You want more?
What's the weekend? So now, great. Website is at the work and everything is coming like, we should answer like the next 20 questions I have to ask. But I really, yeah, that's what we need a website. Almost kind of like teacher paying teachers with lesson plan, resources, templates, games, you name it. So I'm
Yes.
excited to look forward to the website once it's up and running. I'm pretty sure there will be like many schools, middle schools, high schools, maybe even college for teachers and training to be more aware of bullying and how to reduce it. We could stop it, but it will be forever. But there will be ways and resources to prevent it from happening or to prevent it from getting worse. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, and I will be patient to stand up my high school for you all to come and just talk about it and share stories if there's been bullying stories, scenarios, or experience, whether it was a positive or negative experience with bullying.
And that's really important too. We really need to hear from teachers and we need to hear from students, parents, guardians, caregivers, because we want to be sure that what we're designing and delivering is what is needed. And so maybe what's happening in my school or my community is different than what's happening in your school and your community. And we really want for this to be something that many people can use. And so it's important for us to hear stories because it is my deep philosophy that everybody has a story. Everybody belongs to someone, and we want to be sure that we are taking care of each person in the best way that we can. And so the more information we have, the better that we can serve those that are in need.
Yeah, yeah. And I know Trevor mentioned when he was giving a speech or a lecture briefly at the school at Deer Lake, I believe. And he was talking about terminology. There's the bully, there's the target,
Yes.
there's the bystander, and I wasn't sure if there was an instigator, the person who influencing or the person who pushing the bully to do the bullying. So you want to expand or explain the each of the terminology so we know the difference between bully, target, bystander, and maybe the instigator, the person who like, you can do it, come on, not gonna get in trouble, or and the overall team upstanders. I mean, what is the meaning of upstanders in general?
Absolutely. Well, let me start with that piece. So an upstander is somebody that is willing to step up, step in, and work to make a difference. And it is a term that has been more used recently when we're talking about the anti-bullying initiative. So when we were looking for a name for the organization, we looked at a lot of different terms and we wanted it to be something that was unified, like where people felt that these were people coming together because when we have our group of upstanders and upstander, these are groups of students who are willing to stand up, to speak out, and to make a difference. And so that was, when we were kind of looking at different names for the organization, we wanted it to be something that was unified and something that we could identify with the anti-bullying initiative. And that's where Team Upstanders came from. Now, the skit that you're referring to, that was actually written by a good friend of mine. She is at the time was an attorney by trade. She is now in the nonprofit sector, but she also by hobby writes screenplays. And so she and I sat down together. And she wanted to know what the vision was, what we wanted to portray on stage, what kids would relate to. So we wrote the story with it being performed over and over again from each of the different perspectives. And we started with the bully, that person that is going out there and making that choice to go out of their way to be unkind to somebody else. Now, the piece that we showed in the very opening of the skit is that the young man who is portraying the part of the bully, he says something to the effect of, I don't know where I'm going to find my dad when I go home tonight, and basically that he was drinking. So you get that there's a backstory to the bully, that sometimes there are things happening in somebody else's life that makes it hard for them to cope or deal. And so they make choices to, engage in bullying behavior. So it starts with that. And then you kind of talked about the instigator. The instigator was kind of that person that walked in on stage with him, kind of like the kind of totally supported and almost encouraged. Didn't say much, but would kind of laugh when he laughed, would kind of like, give him an elbow to the rib kind of thing to be unkind. And so each time we went through and acted out the skit, we would hear the voice, kind of the inside voice of what was going on. So we did have the target. It was a young man who they were making fun of his shoes. They were making fun of, something that he was wearing. And that young man would talk about how, oh my gosh, please don't let this kid come up to me. I hope it doesn't happen to me again. And then we had the bystander, that person who wants to make a difference, but maybe doesn't have the confidence or the courage. I find, in working with middle school kids, there's a lot of insecurity and a lot of uncertainty that goes along with that age. And so that bystander is kind of there in like almost wanting to be invisible, like, please don't let this bully come up and approach me. I really wish I could do something, but I don't think I'll make a difference. So I'm not going to do anything. And that bully kind of comes up and tries to like kind of get in her face and those kinds of things. And then we have the upstander. We have the student who says, you know what? I might be a little fearful. I might be a little bit worried about what people say or do, but you know what? This is the right thing. And so she steps in and she stands up for her friend. They were kind of throwing his shoe around. So I'm going to take the shoe back. And then what I like too is that we also portrayed the part of a teacher. Is that a teacher noticed something, checked in? We want to let you know that we have ways to help and support. Because what I like about Team Upstanders that's a little bit different from some of the other programs out there is the fact that not only is it a peer program, but it's a peer program supported by adults. So it's not just peer versus peer. It's not just adult to peer. It's kind of all working together. And so I like that piece was revealed in the skit as well, is that the teacher was checking in. Are you okay? I'm proud of you as an upstander for seeking, helping your classmates seek that support, and know that we are here to help you if you need us.
Yeah, wow, thank you. That was very good collect information and terminology. So I appreciate you explaining each one of them and how they were involved in the script and the play that you wrote and worked on. Yeah, I have so many ways or conclusion when it comes to bullying because like, how in the movie or like an elementary school, they start off a little bit small, like teasing or picking or just, that kind of thing. Because both of my children have experience with minor bullying, and I have experience too. So from my experience was, I think I was like in elementary school, fourth grade, fifth grade, and I'm deaf and hard of hearing. So I'm in a public school, and I have a little trumpeter, and I remember I was outside playing fourth grade with my friends, just playing, and all of a sudden the ball goes out of bounds. So I'm just walking and walking, and a fifth grader, taller than me, a little bit bulkier than me, so he was like, walked it back, and she started like teasing me, like, pretend to throw, but hold the ball. So I was like, can I have the ball back, please? We need the ball for the first one. He goes, oh, no. And one of my friends, Josh, came with the, give me the ball, yo, come on, let it go. So I got the ball, that's it. And then I ran away. And then after once in a while, he would just be like, not calling me name, but like, hey, I like your hair, or the ears sticking out. Just little comment, the comment, and like brush it off, because fourth grade, you don't really know anything.
Right.
Back forward, high school, he was in my earth style class and kept constantly picking on me. Why are you doing the fun? Wow, are you not? I was just, okay, whatever. And a lot of people were saying that he liked you. I'm like, no, no, just whatever. No. So all of that, and then when he graduated, he wrote in my yearbook. He was no, I didn't mean to bully you. I just liked you, and I didn't know how to talk to you. Or no, I thought you were very quiet, cute, but sometimes I was just like fun and picking on you. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings. So I looked at him. I was just like, and then I saw him again at a random summer event. I was planted with my first kid. He was like, and then what came out of my mouth, I didn't even realize. I'm like, hey, you bully, what are you doing over there? And then the rest was history. So it's so confusing on how to address, I like you, I have a crush on you. And maybe an easier way to do that, pick. But they don't mostly realize it is a type of bullying, but
Absolutely.
not intentional.
Right. Well, and that's why too, as a school counselor at the middle school level, I find it so important to number one, teach kids how to be advocates for themselves, how to speak up for what you need, and how to tell somebody when something's not okay. Like, that's not an okay thing to speak to me. That's not an okay way to handle this situation. But also teaching kids like to find their confidence in themselves. Because I think when you feel more confident, you feel more connected, then you're going to be more comfortable to speak your truth as like, I mean, there are a lot of things when you're a teenager that are very awkward, or in elementary school. So that's not going to go away completely. But just the importance of helping every kid find, what am I good at? What do I enjoy? Where do I excel? And those things help to build that confidence. And then hopefully that starts to build the culture of kindness within a school community.
Yes, and we never know what kind of a person the bully was. Maybe he bullied the person or for one reason. Like you said earlier, he could be having a rough time at home or a rough time figuring out who they are as a person and just pick. But they don't think, they don't realize that, so that's really very important for everybody to know and to be aware of, okay, like there's something wrong or like I'm trying to make fun, but that's not how to make fun. Pick,
No,
and then eventually make fun. No, so that's what we need to
absolutely.
get out there and work on and teach and show, act it out, right? Act it
Yes.
out, no, and then they like see the difference because the bully, the target, the bystander, the upstander could be role reversed. The
That's
bully
right.
could be someone rich, someone who had 4.0 GPA and had the whole future ahead of them. A bully, the bystander, upstander, target could be like a middle class person that had drunkard or like the birthday.
That's right. Well, and I always try to tell my students, when there is a situation with a bully, not that what's happening in their world excuses their behavior, but sometimes, it helps us to understand. But I say you're not always entitled to know what somebody's story is because you may not know them or have that trust with them. But I always let them know that the kids that are the hardest to love are the ones that need you the most. So a lot of times, those kids that are acting out, or being unkind, there's something else that's going on. And I tell them, you can't help but take it personally because when somebody's bullying you, they're doing something that's very personal. But unfortunately, a lot of times it has to do with what's going on in their world. And so, again, it's just trying to create a culture of kindness where everybody feels comfortable, to bring the best of who they are. And if there is an area of struggle, an area of challenge, or a boundary or concern, that's where we have the trusted adults in the building that can hopefully help those students get what they need. And those are some of the things that we really want to build with Team Upstanders.
Yeah, yeah. Like I told you like earlier, the purpose of you coming on to my podcast and I try like to branch it out. No, it should not. All about Hallmark and most of my podcast is forget me for that.
Oh
But
no, that's
the
great.
topic yeah, I know you got it. Once we finish you, I will message you and I met like most of the people because I've gone to 2 events. So it's really nice to branch out. So, and I will slowly want to get into the core values or the core issues of the society, the world. But anti-bullying, mental health, mental awareness, and how do you need to focus on yourself first before you focus on other people because you can't take care of other people before you take care of yourself. And I wanted to share more about my deafness and deaf culture and make people out there about deaf people and how to approach them. And yeah, because there's so many varieties of people who are bullied because of the way they look, because of the way they are, or how they're different, like people with braces or people with one arm, one leg, or people who are not normal, but everybody is normal. One person can't do one thing, but can do anything. So for me, the only thing I can't do is I can't hear. But I can do
Right.
anything else. I'm a teacher, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I run, I read, I do a podcast. I keep a flying airplane, but so that's one of the reasons why I just like, okay, I'm just gonna do the start off with Hallmark, podcasters, writers, authors, and then slowly, okay, time to get serious. And I just pinpoint so people are out there like, that's the information I'm looking for. I could use some of this.
That's right.
Like I've heard Team Upstanders recent. I can't remember how recent because I know you were in the work for a few years and I finally got it going. Because there's been a lot of issues in the public world, but I'm not gonna say especially mine, but there has been a lot of like fight regarding to bullying or sign language and people can't understand the correct different or approach to our deaf student
Mhm.
without fighting because
Wow.
no deaf individuals have a different way of perceiving. So if you're across the room and you look at me just like got a problem. That does something.
Sure.
Miscommunication, misfiring. So hence why we're here today talking about anti-bullying among with different situations, different issues.
That's right. Kat, I love what you're doing. You're bringing education and you're bringing a spotlight to these things that are so important. And I think that's how we learn, right? Like that's how we learn how to interact and do it better by learning because you're right. Some kids or even adults, when they walk into new situations, things are awkward and uncomfortable and they don't know what to do. So they don't always do the right thing. So again, just that advocacy piece, like learning to say, like, hey, how can I best communicate with you? Or, I'm wondering, if you have a certain physical disability, like, do you need help with that? Like, how do we teach kids and adults how to approach in a comfortable way? And I guess, unfortunately, some people may never like to be approached, and some people may always want to be approached, but we can only do our best to try to be. So I love what you're doing here in bringing a spotlight to these different topics and the way that you're educating people. I think it's truly incredible. So thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So that's where I am at with this. And I'm working really hard with my depth project, trying to see comment or question or curiosity from my friend, viewers, fans, or anybody out there because American Sign Language, is a language. Some people are like, no, nah, it's just something to do with the hands. No, that's how deaf people communicate. I mean, we can communicate
Exactly.
going back and forth with writing on paper, but sometimes give yourself a chance, learn how to sound the ABCs, and then build up from there. Um, yeah, there's so many people. It's just not like one concept of a bully, a bad person, and one concept of a good person who does good deeds. It's literally everybody. It could be you. You could be a bully and not knowing anything, and I could be a target or a bystander. You never know. Because I'm sure we are all of them in different times of our lives. So I felt like it's very important just to get a message out there and share, rather
Yeah.
than they agree or they're like, oh, I did not know that. Can you share more about that? Or right on spot, I could relate with her. So that's how I find people and reach out and hey, you want to come on here or I come on yours?
Absolutely. That's absolutely amazing for certain. And I wanted to ask you too, you said you have children. How old are your kids?
Yeah. 13-year-old will be 14 going on to 8th grade. And I have an 11-year-old who just promoted from 5th grade going into 6th grade. So I'm like, girl, boy.
Two middle schoolers. Well, please make sure that you send me their t-shirt sizes because I want to make sure we send them both Team Upstanders t-shirts.
No problem. I will do that. And I was very clear with, okay, long story short, my family about 7 years ago was involved in a really bad car accident and we thought we lost my son. But
Mm.
miraculously, thank God, he pulled through and it was a long road of recovery. And now we lived in Mississippi for 5 years before moving back home. I was born and raised in Wisconsin. So we stayed here, decided to raise a family until both can go off to college and do whatever they please. And then we'll find somewhere to retire and just no more kids, no more responsibilities, that kind of thing. Um, they both have. I don't want to think that he been severely bullied just because of the way he walked and the way he practiced things and the way he did things. So and then I'm going to middle school. I'm like, oh my daughter experienced a little bit of early at the end of the school year. But like I said earlier, picking out, oh, your hair is so funny today, or oh, you look so weird today, and that kind of picky, or coming in the face. My daughter's like, stop doing that. So I emailed the principal, what's the deal? But eventually it started to fade away because she told my daughter and told the other person and told the witnesses and other victims. If you can't talk to them or talk to them, walk away. So engage. And then they will engage back. Because my daughter did tell me that, can I punch him? I'm like, violence is not the key. I mean,
Right.
I wouldn't mind you punching him, but it's the wrong thing to do. I understand you want to stand up for yourself, but the only way you got to do that is they walk away or they please leave me alone, or I will tell that my the principal, and walk away. If you follow, you go to the nearest classroom or
That's
the
right.
nearest adult. So I was very liberal going into my school. I met my daughter. I watched out for him. So the principal emailed me the last day of school. We will make sure Taylor transitioned to middle school perfectly. I mean, we made sure all about that and aware of his background story and
Mhm.
how he is at the young person. And so we're ready. I'm like, okay, because if I hear or see or find out I'm coming to the office, I'm a teacher myself too, so I see it everywhere.
Sure. That proactive communication, that's really important for parents and guardians and caretakers to know. That upfront proactive communication and then the continued open communication is really important. I mean, obviously, we wanna teach the kids to learn to be advocates and speak up for themselves, and to know who their trusted adults are, but sometimes it is very appropriate just for, parents, guardians, and caretakers to be in touch, to just say, "Hey, we've had some of these concerns in the past. I'd like for you to be aware and we would love your support on the school end." And schools are normally very willing to accommodate as the best they can. They can't always make every accommodation that maybe a family would appreciate, but they work to do their best. So I'm glad to know that you've had some of those conversations, and I'm sorry to know that either of your children have had difficult experiences, but it sounds like that you have given, as a parent and as a teacher, some really really good advice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so they were nothing but amazing. I mean, my son is working with his special ed teacher and self-advocacy teacher about his presentation. He's been doing that through the whole elementary school about his hearing loss and what to do and what not to do and what caused his hearing loss. So he gives a little bit of a backstory of that.
Mm,
And then bring it on to that presentation we've been working on to the whole elementary school and add more information every year, take out information every year. So that's how the school and class, the grade, or the staff is very well known and aware about my son Taylor. He is the sweetest boy. I mean, he tells these amazing funny jokes. He has 3 or 4 joke books. And he gets along with everybody. He goes to the grocery store or a gas station. Hi, how are you doing? And just open kid.
that's awesome. I love how he's bravely sharing his journey and being such an advocate. And what an example he is to his peers. That he's saying, like, this is my story. This is what I want to share. And like you said, he's making sure that as time goes on, he is updating it, and he is allowing people to understand where he's coming from. And I think that's significant. I think we could all take a really good lesson from Taylor. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but people won't know. I mean, it's not like maybe I have like a real basic question or whatever, and I will hear from other people. Then she's afraid of you. I'm like, didn't even do anything. What's the problem? You just want to ask, just ask. I grew up a little bit shy, so I would be like, why is she asking me that? I mean, just no. But now, as I grow up, now experience A to D, good experience and bad experience and written lesson. Oops, I made a mistake. I learned from that. And of course, marrying, have a husband, and then you birth children. So your perspective, life, anything, really, anything changing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So wrapping up, I just wanted to give you an opportunity if you have any comments or any questions about myself or that culture or anything in general.
Well, first of all, again, I just want to say, Kat, thank you so much for, for having Team Upstanders on today. We really appreciate the opportunity. We're growing slowly, and we are really thrilled with the people who are such champions and supporters of what we're doing. And so people like you are just helping us to continue to spread, everything that we're trying to do here and the difference that we're trying to make. In terms of one of the things I know that you had mentioned when we had corresponded that I think it's important for families to know, or maybe some of the signs, if your child's being bullied. I think when I was growing up, people only thought of bullying in the physical, like if somebody, if you came home and your shirt was ripped or you had a black eye or those kind of things, that was really the only bullying. But bullying extends to so many different areas now that, I think too is important. So beside just the physical issues or like coming home with, broken items or torn books or, tattered clothing, we also have to think about, if kids are talking about they don't want to go to school, I have a headache, I have a stomach ache. Maybe they're coming home from school and they're saying, "Oh, I didn't eat my lunch today. I didn't like what they had." Sometimes kids, unfortunately, are scooting out of the cafeteria and maybe going someplace else because they're avoiding that social situation that might be uncomfortable, or unfortunately the social isolation of, nobody wants you to sit here or those kinds of things. Looking for big changes in sleeping patterns or lots of nightmares. If grades change or kids maybe aren't interested in school. And I know a lot of the things that I'm mentioning can also be like preteen or teenage kind of things, but it's important to open up a conversation and maybe having a regular time every day where you just sit and check in. How was your day? And for every family that's different. For some families it's at the dinner table. Not every family can sit down as a family with busy lives. In some cases it will be at night, kind of like, let's do a tuck in. How was your day? Or maybe when they first come home from school, if that's a possibility, whatever it might be. But just having, like, opening up an opportunity for kids to want to share, because as they get older that can get harder and harder. Also too, just if, kids are maybe quitting activities and just avoiding social situations. No, I don't want to go to that birthday party, or no, I don't really want to join soccer this year. Not that kids can't try new things, but if they're not wanting to try anything new. Also too, just keeping an eye on a decrease in self-esteem or any big concerns with mental health or self-harm. And two, it depends on how everybody does this as a family, but I think it's important for parents, guardians, and caretakers to be aware of what's on social media, on phones, because a lot of times that's where it happens. Things like Snapchat where it's here and it's gone. So sometimes that's where those things are happening. So certainly just keeping an eye out for those things. And, too, and thinking about, is my child bullying? Because, sometimes we may not realize that a child is dealing with something. And so they're trying to take care of it through bullying behavior. So again, it can be, somebody becoming increasingly aggressive, or maybe hearing about more fights, or hearing about, all of a sudden there's a lot more money that I don't know, like no after school job, no birthday, no whatever. And again, too, that social media piece, that might be where they're going to exchange the unkind words or actions. So, And then I would just say I would love to hear back from, from your viewers and listeners if they have suggestions of what they would like to see in terms of resources. And I'd love to hear from you, Kat, ways that we can, help support the deaf community in things that we're doing with Team Upstanders because we want to be, we're all about being inclusive and honoring the differences of others and supporting one another. So I would love to hear in what ways we could be helpful so that we could certainly consider that as we move forward in building the website and eventually becoming a nonprofit.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely am on board with all what you said. Because sometimes like back then in our time or older time, like kids would show up to school with dirty clothes or hungry or whatever. So it's like very big concept of neglect or people at home are not paying attention and the people at school are paying attention, they're helping, they're taken care of. And like you said, bully it more could be more physical, more verbal, more mental. So all of it. It's all about really, I've been keeping watch on my daughter, her action, her attitude, her grades, like you said. It was a struggle, but I have to say, I'm sure everybody out there agrees middle school is the hardest part. Elementary school, not so much. High school, you are figuring it out yourself before going off to college. Or I kind of figured myself out in high school, and then I finally, this is who I am in college. But I was out there, I was at home, I was there, around people I know. But for me, middle school was just, I'm sure it was everybody's hell. Because that's where you are figuring out the meaning of friends, not friends, who to trust, who to go to.
That's right.
And of course, my daughter goes into middle school around the whole world decided to shut down. And that's where everything comes to play, mental health, depression, social anxiety, trying to figure out who are my friends, who are not my friends, and completely shut down. And she was like telling me, I need to see someone. Okay, let's go find somebody. So she found seeing somebody, and I try not to push her, or my husband try not to push her. So she tells us when she's ready, and then we walk with her through it. But then I was like at the end of the school, I was like, someone picking on you. She goes, wow, it's this boy. And I told her, okay, well, first of all, you need to tell me right away. You cannot sit there, this happened a week ago. No, right away. And then that's when I started acting on it. And the same thing for my son Taylor with the whole fifth grade transitioning to middle school. So right
Right.
on with the signs, the symptoms, and that way the parents, advocates, teachers, or even peers time to get help, ask for help, or resources right there in front of them or online or social media. Yeah, social media could be good, could be bad. It goes both ways.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need to teach kids. Like, I tell my students all the time, you need a license to hunt, to fish, to drive a car, but there is no license or training of how to use these devices. And that can be really dangerous. Like the way Trevor Donovan uses his social media is amazing. He uses it as a platform to entertain, to encourage, to inspire. And that's what I try to teach my students to do. But one of the things that I'm trying very hard to do in my district, and I know that others across the nation are as well, is to mentalize or to normalize the need for mental health. I tell kids, you go for a well visit every year to the pediatrician. You need to take care of your physical health. You also need to take care of your mental health in the same way, because truly, you could probably have a whole episode about the effects of the pandemic on kids, and on everybody. But I have seen the significant, barriers and challenges that have come to be. But schools have done a really nice job. You had talked about kids don't want to come to school because maybe their clothes aren't clean or they haven't been fed. I love to see that schools are doing great things with free breakfast programs, or clothing closets, or pantries for food. I know in my office, I have hygiene products. The kids know they can come in, no questions asked. If they need a toothbrush, or if they need body wash, or if they need a brush, or whatever, they know that it's there and no questions asked, because you need to help to build their dignity. They're going to keep showing up when they know they're being seen and supported, in a way that is comfortable for middle level kiddo. And I always say that the middle level, like you said, is probably developmentally one of the most challenging places. And I always say, I feel like middle school is your adults in training. Like, you're learning all of these things to put together to then learn how to take it to the next step. And you're dealing with so many things developmentally. And so, I applaud anybody that tries to support kids that are going through this stage, because it's difficult. So again, thank you for what you're doing.
And with the pandemic, I mean, literally, I think pretty much everybody kind of like jumped in action and helped, like with the public good, and my good to drink, free lunch, free breakfast, and a Wednesday and a Friday, family of four could get 2 bags, but I have 2 kids and the good to drink, so 2 bags, and we had a fruit, vegetable, meat, enough to make dinner for 2 weeks. So that's really
Wow.
amazing. And I've done Amazon wish list, I've done donut shoes, teaching from home. I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna have to go back to my classroom and grab what I need at home. And I will have a care package for each of my students. So, for example, during the pandemic, I had 7 students. So I will have a small care package of, I don't know, 4 notebooks. They only use one. They put 5 subjects in one notebook. I'm like, 5 notebooks, 5 classrooms, please do not drive me crazy on that. You're very lucky we're virtual right now. Otherwise, I would reach to the screen and make you separate each subject. But I have made sure they have notebook and they have a small dry erase board and a dry erase marker and pencil and hand sanitizer and a small pack of masks and 1 or 2 of their favorite snacks. I will I will work in the morning. In the afternoon, I'm supposed to be in my office hours. I will go to my kid's house, drop off, drop off,
Oh,
drop off. So it's a lot, and teachers, and I want to applaud teachers out there and myself for sticking through the pandemic, working from home for 2 years, and then slowly shifting back into the building, and then
absolutely.
starting to be normal, and then reuse the whole routine. So yeah, I think that whole thing is just pinpoint the pandemic, COVID, and the 4 or 5 frames of it, just like put the word into. So I want you to thank you, Team Upstanders, Trevor Donovan. I made sure he watched it. Trevor
Absolutely.
Donovan and all of the podcasters out there and people in general, frontline workers, teachers, parents, everybody to come together as one and to make sure everybody's okay. Adults, workers, parents, kids, children especially, who struggle the mental burden of virtual school and going back to school and being normal again and being around people again. So thank you for all you do. And I'm looking forward slowly, patiently for the website. We'll keep in touch about any topic in the future.
Absolutely. I would love that. I love how you took care of your students and you made sure they were equipped with everything that they need. That is so special. And I believe that we need to equip our students and kids in the same way, with all the social and emotional needs to learn how to take care of one another, because it truly does take a village. So I thank you so much. And I love that you're wearing your CK9 Cafe shirt, Kat. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. It's one of the first shirts I wear. I just started. I was like, beloved Tito and Baden. So I'm gonna need a new shirt. So I'm
There
gonna
you go.
go to the store after this online and buy myself a shirt because
So,
Trouble Dog and TikTok, Instagram just bring life to everybody. And,
well,
and stories and him coming on social media to say, this is my account. That's it. Other account, black, report. Thank you again. This is Trevor. I heard that last Trevor. We know it's you. But that's so important to get that out there.
Absolutely. Well, again, don't forget to send me your kids' t-shirt sizes and you send me yours as well, and we'll make sure to get some t-shirts over to you.
Definitely. Thank you for being here tonight and have a great evening. And I will talk to you soon.
Thank you, ladies. Take care. Bye now.
Bye, guys.